All right, welcome to the saddest wrap up ever. Here we are for the saddest wrap up. Um, yeah, not great. Not a great day. I mean, there's not a lot to say about the deck list. Obviously, it's pretty stock. There's always the debate about number of paths in the main, but other than that, a lot of these lists are going to look very, very, very similar. Um, it's it's a deck that certainly has a fail rate, as we had in a lot of our games. I think most of the difficulty in playing the deck uh, comes from mulligan decisions and sideboarding decisions. So common things in Magic that can be more complex, and in this case, I think dramatically more complex than most of the games. So that didn't stop me from making my fair share of mistakes today. Though worth noting, I think that very few of them, if any, had a real tangible impact on our actual results. Um, Either I still won the game easily, um, or we lost in a different route. Like take the living end game for example. I very poorly search for a Dryad Arbor to increase my damage output. Obviously, giving my opponent the additional out of having Demonic Dread, realizing that, but then we got Violent Outbursts it anyway. Sort of things like that. So while there's still mistakes, while there's still things that I should notate for myself, I don't think they actually impacted the result of our matches, which sort of just leaves us in it's modern. Sometimes that's going to happen. I don't necessarily think our matchups were bad. I think humans is a fine matchup. Well, we lost that one, of course. I think KCI is a good matchup, though perhaps closer than it may first appear. But I still think with this pile of cards plus your normal plan, I think you're just favored. I think maybe paths 3 and 4 were too much, so I think that's definitely a mistake that I made that had a tangible impact on our game. So that's a big one. I think that match might have been winnable had I sideboarded a little bit better. Though I think that you're just absolutely still bringing in these 10 cards, which is a ton for the deck. But still 13, I think that was just too many. I think I needed a higher density of things to put on my creatures there. But yeah, I don't know. Bogles is still a good deck here and there. It does sort of depend on the meta somewhat, but things like Cartouche, things like main deck Leyline have helped it a bunch against stuff like Liliana. If you have a good opening hand with Bogles every time, I think you're pretty favored to win a lot of your matches. It just interacts on an axis that a lot of people aren't prepared to deal with, though. You do see a reaction in things like having lots of engineered explosives. Obviously, a big part of why we lost the KCI match outside of having too much interaction and not enough pressure. Yeah, you see a lot of explosives and a lot of copies of them in the decks that you do see them from. So that's certainly something to be prepared for. Obviously, some of the decks will already be bringing in Stony, stuff like KCI in particular. But you're not really going to want to bring in Stony against someone who's just going to have explosives. So it's just not really something you can do a ton about. Umbras can help a little bit. Spider Umbra and Hyena Umbra can help in those regards a bit, but often not a ton. It's still going to hurt generally to be explosives and generally give your opponent a way to deal with what you're doing otherwise. So anyway, Bogles just been popping up a lot lately, increasing in popularity. I thought it was a good time for us to showcase the deck and just give it a spin. Not a deck I choose to play very often, just not really something that I particularly enjoy. I'm sure I would ever be willing to play it as a particularly strong meta call, but usually I find I rarely find myself doing that in Modern, taking a meta call that hard-lined. So I doubt I will ever be playing with it in paper in the future at anything large, but you never know. You never know what the future of Modern might hold. Either way, I appreciate you for watching the video all the way through, the series all the way through. Again, I mentioned at the end of the last match there, but let me know how you feel about content like this. Do you prefer these leaks to get screened so that you only see ones that are, a little bit closer on average, or are you still happy to see the occasional league that does not go our way. We'll stick with that. But either way, thanks again for tuning in. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.